Hello folks, this is Sula speaking, and you're listening to another commentary video for League of Legends, this one featuring Vladimir. I'm playing again in a pre-made team of 5, along with Cole, who's playing as Caitlyn, with Miss Hare, who's playing as Garen, with Uberfish playing Nunu, and with Donsky playing Tarek. I'm going to be playing Vlad. This is, I think, maybe the second or third time that I've played as Vlad. I actually do not own Vlad, but he is free on the week that I'm casting this video. He's probably one of the champions that I'm going to try to buy next because I enjoy his playstyle, and I think he's a fun character to play as. So I don't have a lot of experience with Vlad, but I have seen other people play him. I have a good idea of how to build Vlad, and since this is the first time I've played as him, I'm going to go through and talk about some of his abilities as we go through this video. If you looked at the other team there on the setup screen, as it turns out that we are playing against a team that does not have a jungler. So it looks like I'm going to be in a pretty familiar role for me, which is in the 2 versus 1 lane. So even though I don't have a lot of practice with Vlad, I'm pretty confident that I can do that. Vlad is a champ who fares well in a lane for 2 versus 1. As far as our other champion distribution, Cole playing Caitlyn is going to take the solo middle lane. Donsky's Nunu is going to be jungling. And then our other two champs are going to be down in the bottom lane. Donsky playing Tarek and Miss Hare playing Garen. Right here you can see I'm highlighting the different abilities for Vlad. I'll go through these in a little bit more detail when we go through the game. What I'm going to talk about though first, while I have a minute here, is I just want to mention Vlad's passive, which is Crimson Pact, it's called, and I'm going to highlight that in a couple seconds. Vlad has one of the more useful passives in this game in that when he gets ability power, it adds additional life to him, and when he gets additional life, it adds extra ability power. So it's a little bit similar to the passive of Kayle in that she turns ability power into attack damage and vice versa, I think. So Vlad has something similar, but for him, he turns health into ability power and ability power into health. Now, one other thing you might notice is that Vlad, see there it is, I'm going to highlight it here. You can see I'm getting 8 additional ability power and 1 extra health to start the game. So for Vlad, there are really 3 key things that you want to focus on building. You want health. Obviously, you need health, but health also adds to your ability power. You want ability power, again, for his passive. And then you want cooldown reduction. So those are really the 3 things you want. Health, ability power, and cooldown reduction. And when I talked about itemizing Vlad, those are the things that you want to emphasize. Here, we're going to help Uberfish start at the blue golem. And notice that I draw aggression on the golem first. Ordinarily, that would have been really bad, but they changed the monster AI in a few patches ago so that it will retarget the person who is nearby. So now you actually want someone who's not jungling to target the monster AI right at the beginning, monster aggression right at the beginning of the game. So that's why we do that there. Anyway, up here in the lane, you can see we've got Malphite here, and there's going to be another champ up here too. I'm pretty sure that there's another champ here, which is why you can see I'm playing defensively, why I'm not rushing forward here, because I'm pretty sure one of them is in the bushes up there. Until he does pop out, though, I'm going to try to harass Malphite. And so, look, there comes Xin Zhao, so I'm going to be up against Malphite and Xin Zhao. Okay, so let's try to go through some of Vlad's abilities. Oh, unfortunately, Miss Hare gets killed down in the bottom lane and gives them first blood. A little bit unfortunate there. As far as Vlad's abilities go, you might have noticed he doesn't have any mana, which makes him one of the most unique champions in this game. He has a playstyle that doesn't really reflect that of any of the other champs. He is essentially an AP ability power mage who doesn't use mana. Everything's based off of his health. So how does this work? Well, it's mostly based off of his initial Q skill, which is called Transfusion. This spell costs nothing to use, and when you cast it, it deals damage and drains life back into Vlad. Pretty simple. So every time that I use it, it doesn't cost me anything, and you might have noticed I healed back a little life when I used it last. You can see the little plus 22 over Vlad's head. So this is really the basis for all of his other spells. It's very weak at rank 1, at the first level of first point that you put in it, but as you put additional points in it, it reduces the cooldown of the spell. I think that the cooldown is something like 10 seconds when you first start, and it goes down to like 4 seconds when you have max rank in it. Don't know the exact numbers there, but it's something like that. So for Vlad, you always want to give priority to his Q skill, Transfusion. It's the one you want to level up first. It's the one that allows him to heal himself, and you need it to use any of his other skills because all of his other skills cost health to use, and Transfusion's how you get that health back. Okay, his next skill that you'll probably want to be skilling after Transfusion is his E skill, Tides of Blood. With this is not a targeted spell. What happens is Vlad will toss out these little well, little things of blood, I guess. Like right there, you see me using it. And unfortunately, it just barely misses killing those 2 minions. He'll throw out these little, I guess, blood geyser sort of things in areas around him. And it will damage all the units around him, minions or champions. The thing about Tides of Blood, it costs health to use. It has a relatively low health cost, but it does cost health every time you use it. So if you use it too much, you will be hurting yourself. The other interesting thing about it is that it will add stacks each time you use it. If you use multiple Tides of Blood in a short period of time, each one will do increased damage, but they will also cost more health, and it can stack up to 4 times. So you'll notice if you see the little indicator down there on the interface, if I use Tides of Blood again, it'll go up to 2. You'll probably see that sooner or later here. So you have to be careful. You can so like right now it went up to 2 because I used 2 Tides of Blood in a relatively short span of time. So you have to be a little bit careful when you use the spell. If you use Tides of Blood a lot, you'll be doing a ton of damage to the enemy, but you'll also be hurting yourself a lot too. So you have to be a little bit careful. Alright, next, Vlad's skill that you want to put 1 point in definitely, but other than that you can give last skill priority to leveling up, is his W skill, which is Sanguine Pool, usually just referred to as Vlad's Pool. When Vlad uses this, he sinks down into the ground for 2 seconds, and he cannot be targeted by any enemy spell. Like, he can't be targeted by anything, he just can't be hurt, can't be targeted, can't be damaged. And he also will slow and drain life from anyone who's in the pool. So you can pool on top of an enemy champ, and you'll be life draining them, you'll be slowing them. So it sounds like a great skill. But there are a couple of problems with it. One, it costs health to use, of course. It costs 20% of Vlad's current health. So if you're near max health, it costs quite a bit in health to use. So it can have a pretty big cost. You don't just want to be pooling at full life, hardly ever. Secondly, it has a very long cooldown. The cooldown is, I think, about 20 seconds, so it's a relatively long cooldown. Third, you don't just want to pool casually. Oh, by the way, here, notice Cole is in the midst of a fight with their Kennen, and Cole manages to flash out of this one, and Kennen's not going to be able to land a shuriken for that last mark of the storm. So, nice play by Cole. Anyways, I was saying, long cooldown, and the other thing is, if you pool too early in a fight, Pool is really Vlad's only escape tool. He doesn't have any stuns, and Pool is his only way of slowing enemies. So if you pool too early or you pool at the wrong time, you can get killed very easily. So you have to be careful about using it. It's your only escape mechanism, so be careful about using it. And there goes the Pool right there. So like right there, they exhausted me, so I used Pool to help slink away so that they couldn't target me while I had that Pool up. But if you noticed, it did actually do a lot of damage to me. Then finally, Vlad's ultimate is called Hemoplague. It's an area of effect spell. He will, you'll have this targeting circle will appear on the map, and any enemy champ that's in it will take, well, he'll put like a mark on them, and then after I think about 4 seconds, they'll take extra damage. Like the Hemoplague will actually trigger after a couple seconds. So does good damage. I wouldn't say it does like monster damage, but it does pretty good damage. It also increases. The people that you put his ultimate on also will take increased damage for a couple seconds after you use it. I think they take like 15% extra damage, something like that. So not enormous, but pretty good ultimate. It is area of effect. You can hit more than one person with it, so pretty useful. Pretty useful ultimate overall. Anyway, those are his 3 skills. Now I can now that I've sort of talked about Vlad's skills, I want to go back and talk about sort of the laning matchup here. One thing that you might have noticed is I've been playing, of course, defensively since I'm 2v1 in this lane. You can see I'm just running forward to last hit minions, otherwise I'm trying to stay back. I'm very much aware that Xinjiao can charge towards me at any point in time, and I want to be careful about that. But these guys really were not doing a good job of playing against me in this lane. They were not stopping me from farming, hardly at all. When you have a 2v1 situation like this, they could zone me out of the minions and zone me out of the experience if they wanted to. Like, if they came up and stood behind my minions, they could zone me back away from the gold and experience. And for whatever reason, they weren't doing that in this game. Maybe they just didn't know to do that. So if you notice, they haven't done anything to stop me from farming. If you also might have noticed, when we pushed up against my tower, they weren't harassing me at the tower. They just backed off and then let me farm every minion at the tower, you know, without trying to put any kind of pressure on me. You definitely don't want to do that. You always, I mean, you don't want to be tower diving necessarily, but you can still put pressure on your opponent even when they're at the tower, and make it difficult for them to farm. So like right here, notice the minions are pushing up near my tower, and what do? They just calmly stand back and are not really doing anything to put pressure on me. They're not trying to stop me from farming these minions or anything. And you can see I'm getting just about all of the minions in pretty much complete safety. I mean, Shin's just standing back there not really doing anything. All right, a little bit more about sort of the Vlad playstyle. Vlad is a champion who's really good at harassing. You'll notice that now as I get up close to level 9, where I'll have 5 points in his Q skill, Transfusion, Vlad can harass you down really, really well because his Q is on a short cooldown. Remember, every time that he uses Transfusion on you, he'll be draining life away from you and taking it back to himself. So you can just keep... if you're playing as Vlad, you can just harass, come up, and use your Transfusion, and keep last hitting minions. So, like, now that Malphite has gone down to middle lane, I'm going to start harassing this Xin Zhao player. Ideally, I want to be harassing him and getting last hits. I kind of messed that up there, but you get the idea. See, now that it's one-on-one, I'm going to harass him. I'm going to make it hard for him to last hit minions as much as possible while I continue to try to get last hits. So, like, right there, while he's in the back lines, he's not getting minion kills. He's not going to get the experience. I'm going to keep backing him off. I'm going to keep using my Transfusion on him over and over again. Like right there, I'm able to use it on him, and like it's already off cooldown, I could use it again. But with no sight on Malphite, I figure he's probably coming back to the lane, so I'm going to go back and buy now that I pushed the minions up to the tower. So I'm not going to miss out on hardly any minions of my own. All right, anyway, I'm going to pick up the cooldown boots, Ionian Boots of Lucidity. This is one of the new items introduced, not in the latest patch, but the one right before it. I think this is one of the most useful itemizing items that have been added to the game in a while. Prior to this, for casting characters, you really only had 2 choices. Either you'd want Sorcerer's Shoes for increased magic penetration, or you'd want Merc Treads for the magic resist and for the reduction of slows and stuns. Now you have a third item, cooldown boots. These boots give you 15% reduced cooldowns, and on a lot of casting champs, they're a really good pick. For Vladimir, they're just about perfect. Between runes and masteries, I go into the game with 15% cooldown reduction. With these boots, I now get another 15% cooldown reduction, so I'm now at 30% reduced cooldowns. And just look at how fast my cooldowns reduce on Tides of Blood and on Transfusion. I can use these skills over and over and over again because they come off cooldown so fast. I think that the Q skill comes off cooldown in about 2.5 seconds. Maybe it's even faster than that. So I'm already pretty close to the max, which is 40% cooldown. And again, that's just from getting one item that's relatively cheap. So the other thing I picked up was a Blasting Wand because, as I said, ability power really good on Vlad, health really good on Vlad. The two things feed into each other through his passive. That's what you want to be using. And again here, now notice I'm going to back Xin Zhao off now that he's here by himself. And there I'm going to back him off and drop a sight ward because I want to make sure that there aren't people coming to get me. Now I noticed that Malphite was a little low in the middle lane, so I decided I wanted to come down here and try to get a kill on this Malphite if he continued pushing forward. And in the meantime, while I was waiting to see if they would come forward again, I'm just going to farm up the race in the enemy team's jungle. Of course, all that jungle is free to grab because they don't have a jungler in this game, as they should. Now you can see the Malphite and Kennen are still over here. You can see they're still in the middle lane. I want to go for Malphite, but in fact, he's going to back off, and instead we're going to focus Kennen. So I was telling Cole, it's like, okay, let's go here. Here I'm going to Q him, then I'm going to use my ultimate Hemoplagan, Tides of Blood. I'm going to pool to dive him at the tower. One more Q, and then my ultimate kills him there. So that's a pretty nice dive there. And Vlad's really good at diving people at towers due to his pool. Now Malphite comes out to fight, and I don't know why he's trying to fight, because between myself and Cole, we're going to kill him pretty easily. So that was a really bad engage for their Malphite. You have to be careful in going after Vlad. Even when he's low health, he can still be really dangerous because he'll be stealing health away from you with his Transfusion. Many people will see that Vlad is at like 20 or 30% health and think that they can kill him easily. That's not really true, especially if he has his pool up. He can use his Transfusion and then hit you. He can use his Transfusion, then pool, and you can't hurt him while he's pooled, and he'll be draining life from you while he's pooled. Then immediately when he comes out of his pool, he'll use his Q skill, his Transfusion again. And then like right now you can see, I'm just healing back up in the lane. I can just keep killing every minion with Transfusion. Vlad can heal himself in lane very quickly if he is not using his Tides of Blood or his Sanguine Pool. So strengths of Vlad, very good in the lane. He's one of the best laning champs in the game because he can heal himself so easily. extremely good at harass. You're not going to beat Vlad in harass. It's just you don't want to get involved in a harass game with him. Weaknesses, he is not good at burst damage. He has to do damage over time. So he's certainly not invincible. Now here, out comes Malphite down here from the bottom lane. So I'm going to pool to try to get away. And now Malphite, Malphite flashes after me. He's continuing to harass. Now Malphite's going to ult after me. And now Xin Zhao's going to charge after me. He's going to ult me too. I'm going to continue harassing them. I'm going to get them at the tower. They're tower diving me. I'm going to continue queuing using my transfusion on Vlad or Xin Zhao, and oh, he kills me. But that's a pretty good situation for me. 2 kills as they tower dive me. They used 3 different summoners there. They used 2 flashes. They used an exhaust, and they used both ultimates, and I still kill them 2 for 1. So that's a pretty good situation for me. Anyway, though, we're getting to the end of this video, so I'm just going to bye, and then we're going to pick this up again in part 2.